But now it's processed the whole zip file, and it's generated that bag of words. And we can see how big that is just by printing out its length. So I'm going to print the length of this list of words target variable. You see it has 500,000 word fragments, okay, just from 36 locations. Okay, so this can get very big very quickly, but it's actually not that big of a deal because each piece of data is just like a couple bytes, right? Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can use this bag to generate some kind of knowledge or structure. And what I'm going to use is this library in Python called collections. I'm going to do this interactively on the bottom, and then I'm just going to copy and paste the code into our script. I just want to show you sort of interactively how this works. So we want to import the collections library. And collections does exactly what we want it to do. It basically takes a list and then it sorts that list and figures out which things in that list occur more frequently than others. I think there's a lot of other things that collections can do, but that's what we needed to do in this case. So the first thing we need to do is define a variable for our collection. And we're going to use a function in the collections library called counter. And here you can see what it expects is to get a list of things. And we're going to pass it our big bag of words. Okay? So all counter is going to do is it's going to count how many times each one of those things happens in the list. So that's our collection. And now we can find out which things happen most commonly and how many times those common things happen. But I'm just going to show you how this collections library functions. It has certain functions which tell you information about your list. So if I call collection again, so this is collection is my variable that's storing my collection now, right? And it has some functions for you to explore your list. So the first thing I can do is I can ask my collection what are the most common items, and I can actually tell it how many items I'm interested in. So this function will get the 10 most common items from your collection. Okay, so they'll come back here. It'll tell you what it is. So space, unsurprisingly, is the most common. So it'll bring you back these two-part arrays. The first item in each array is the actual item, and the second part is the number of times it's occurred in the bag. So space occurred 7,338 times out of 500,000, and it's the most common one. The next most common is this character. Okay, and you can specify any number of these things here. I can get the first 100, right? And eventually you're going to start getting combinations of 2 or 3 characters. Okay, so I'm just going to input this code into my script. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to create a variable for my collection of words. And here I want to just I don't care about the number of times. I just want to create a new list which has the 2,000 most common words that's found in my bag. Okay? So I'm going to create a new variable called collection target. This will just contain an array of the 2,000 most common words. And here I'm going to do this one-line function. I covered this a little bit, I think, in the regression demo. This is just shorthand in Python for doing a function many times over a whole list. Okay? So I'm going to write this out and then explain to you how this works. So when you do this kind of shorthand, you sort of work backwards. Okay? So this collection, dot most common 2,000, gives me this list of 2,000 word count pairs. And I'm going to look at each one of these arrays in that list. I'm going to take the first item in each one of those. Okay, so you kind of work backwards to say, okay, enumerate every row in this collection, and from each row take the first element. All right, if I want to visualize this, I can iterate through each one and print it out encoded in Chinese. For C in collection target, print C dot. Okay, so I'm just taking every character and translating it back to Chinese. I think it's actually encode. I always forget. Now, I want to show you all this text, and I want to translate it for the people who don't speak Chinese so you can see what this text is. And there's two ways you can think about using this information. And one is kind of a pre-processing step where Python will tell you all the most common fragments, and you go through and you decide which ones are important. Okay? And that's one potential way. Basically say, what are the most common ideas people talk about? First 10 might be garbage. They're all punctuation, spaces, brackets. And then there's some good chunks. Yeah, that's one way. That's a very, perfectly fine way of using this tool. Another way is to not worry about what it is and just use it as some structure. That's what we're going to do for the rest of the tutorial. Okay? We're not going to really look at the words. We're just going to say, okay, there's some words that people here are using that are different from the words that people are here using, and then we can use that information to classify that place versus another place. Okay, and we'll get to that. First, I just want to actually export this text file. I want to show you what kind of structures we're generating. I'm just going to create a variable for our text file. I'm just going to export each of those entries to a text file so we can look at all of them. Okay, so this is our basic file export procedure. And then I'm going to iterate through all of the words in our collection here. This is our most common 2,000 words. And I'm going to write each one out to the text file. And before I do that, I just want to encode it back to Chinese. Okay, and after each one, I just want to add a new line. This is the same thing we did here in printing them out, but I'm actually just going to export it out to a text file so we can take a look. So it's going to run through it again. If I go to my browser. Okay, so I export all those words. Here they are. I just have a text list now of all these words. I'm going to bring those in. Translate them. Okay, so you see here the kind of stuff that we generate. And this is expected, right? Because we're not asking Python, what are people talking about? We're literally asking it, what are the most common combination of these characters? We get a lot of spaces, punctuation, of, brackets, things like this. At some point, we get some interesting stuff, right? Like I was in this, here, I'm here, I'm here. This is pretty interesting. We're just looking at only this location, and as we expect in check-ins, a lot of people are saying I'm here. At some point we might start to get some very specific words like Shenzhen, creative is here. At some point we might get even more specific like OCT as expected. You see a lot of them start repeating, right, because we're looking at bigger and bigger structures. If in this is very popular, both in and this will also be very popular, and it will happen on the top of the list. So as we go down the list here, we'll get more and more combinations of the same things. But as we get more and more combination, we might actually start getting unique stuff. Like maybe if pictures was very popular up above, that's not very exciting, but sharing of pictures is interesting, okay? This is the first kind of way of using this is as a pre-processing tool, and then you explore, knowing that these things happen a lot, which of them are interesting, which of them are redundant.